We better go. She is so young.
Yeah.
Thank
welcome to Good Friday service. At Lent, I promised we'd be trying new things, and tonight we're going to be trying new things. So tonight is a tenebrae service. Tenebrae is Latin for darkness or shadows, and it's a traditional Good Friday service in which, in a sense, it's a sort of reverse of a Christmas Eve service. We got out our Christ candle from Christmas Eve, and hopefully you grabbed a candle as you came in. If you didn't, feel free to grab one now, the Christmas Eve candles. And we're going to begin with everybody having a candle. And then as we go through the death of Jesus and the story of Jesus' last few days, we're going to come up here and bury or place the candles in the dirt until they are all snuffed out one by one, and then we'll end in darkness. There's a few things about a tenebrae service also that I would like you to know. I don't want a quick rule check, but one of the traditions of a tenebrae service that I really like is that there's no blessing, there's no benediction. After the last light is snuffed, which will be this one, we will just get up and we will leave in silence. And if you want to talk in the narthex or the foyer, that's fine, but I'd appreciate it if after the service is done, at least there's silence within the congregation. And if you want to stay afterwards, sometimes this can be a very moving service for people, and think and contemplate and pray. I'll stay up here. Mike, do you mind staying up here? And if somebody wants to come up and talk to us quietly afterwards, that would be fine as well. Thanks.
Would you stand and join us in singing At the Cross?
Throughout Lent, we've been going through this period of preparation for Easter, and to do that, we've been going through Exodus and looking at how God led the people through the wilderness to prepare them for 40 years in order to become the people of God. And we've been walking along with them and thinking about what it is like for us to prepare. As I was thinking about tonight, why the dirt? I'm sure that's the question on everyone's mind. And some of this is because the story that we've been talking about through Lent begins and it ends in dirt. Exodus is just part of a broader section, these first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, which are meant to be a sort of story from beginning to end of what God's people are, who they are, and what they are called to be. And that story begins in Genesis with dirt. God separates the water from the land. Then he forms birds and animals out of the ground. And then it says this in Genesis 2. Then the Lord God formed a man. He reached down with his hands, is that word formed, and formed a man out of dirt and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Later, God calls that being Adam. And that's a direct reference to this. This, in Hebrew, is Adama. It's dirt. God is literally calling his first person dirt. And throughout Exodus, right, we are referred to as the children of Adam. People are called Adam. They're just called dirt. Eugene Peterson often translates that as dirtlings. We are dirtlings. I like that turn of phrase. We are children of mud. We are children of Adam. We are children that are formed out of the dirt. If you move on in the story, right, then after the fall, part of that curse, when he curses Adam, is that he also curses the Adamah. Cursed is the dirt because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat fruit from it from all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you can eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the dirt. From it you were taken. Dust you are, and to dust you will return. I then noticed this as I was rereading the Exodus story. I saw all these things, and see if you catch this. At the very end of the Torah, at the end of Deuteronomy, as the people are beginning to plan to enter the promised land, there's this statement about the death of Moses from Deuteronomy chapter 34. See if you can catch it. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Mount Pisgah across from Jericho. And the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. And then the Lord said to him, "This is the land," that's again that root word there, "this is the land I promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your own eyes, but you will not cross over into it." And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, just as the Lord had said. And he buried him in Moab in the valley opposite Beth Peor. And to this day, no one knows where his grave is. I don't know if you noticed that or not. It's a little bit like when we talked about Moses and the rock. Exodus is a little, right? They don't speak directly about God. But if you think about it, he goes up with God on a mountain, and he's buried and know where it is. Now, I think that means that God actually reached down into the dirt again at the end of Torah. And he buried Moses. So it begins and it ends with God literally getting dirty, digging his hands into the dirt. First, to bring life, and second, to let life go. From dust we come, and to dust we return. Tonight is Good Friday, and I want to think about that in terms of dirt. God not only made dirt, as Andy was quick to point out to me, God didn't just make God out of the dirt, he also made the dirt. So first he makes the dirt, then he makes people out of the dirt. But then with Christ we see another reach, which is that God himself puts on this dirt, this flesh, that he comes and he lives here with us. And he suffers all the things, all the curses of dirt, all the things of life, all the suffering of life, all the temptations of life. He experiences that all firsthand, that he takes on this dirt that he has created, even to the point of death. And then tonight, as we'll end our story, he is buried in the dirt. So tonight at the Tenebrae service, right, Easter is coming. Don't worry. This is going to be a gloomy time tonight. Easter is coming, but for tonight, see if you can find some joy, some gratitude, some grace in the notion that God came to this earth and took on flesh and was once buried in a tomb.
Would you stand with us to sing the Wonderful Cross?
Cross, on which the prince of peace,
There's two things that I'd like you to do to participate in the Tenebrae service. And the first is this. Whenever I say the phrase, Jesus Christ is the light of the world, I would like you to repeat it back to me. All right? Jesus Christ is the life of the world.
Jesus Christ is the life of the world.
All right, we'll try it one more time. Jesus Christ is the life of the world.
Jesus Christ is the life of the world.
Excellent. The second thing I'd like you to do, if you can, is there's no sermon tonight. I'm just going to read Matthew's passion narrative to you. And when it comes to certain times, I will stop and pause and announce that Jesus Christ is the life of the world. And then if you feel so moved at one of those pauses, I would like you to bring your candle forward, and you can place it in the dirt. You can bury it in the dirt. If you don't want to bend over, which I certainly don't some days, you can lay it on this dirty table. If moving is even something you don't want to do, but you want to stay in your seat, just quietly snuff out your candle and stay in your seat. That's fine. I'm going to stop and pause 7 times. Hopefully by the 7th time, the only light remaining will be this. And then we'll conclude the narrative, and I will bury this in the dirt as the last candle to go out. Once again, to remind you, then, when that's over, we'll just get up and walk out in silence. Tenebrae, like I say, is Latin for darkness. It actually occurs in this passage in the Latin in the Vulgate, which is the official Roman Catholic Latin translation of the Bible. At the very end, in Matthew 27, verse 45, now from the 6th hour, it says, darkness fell upon the land until the 9th hour, while Jesus was on the cross. That word darkness there, that's the word tenebrae, after which this is named. This type of service is old. It's well over 1,000 years old. We don't know how long. Usually it's done with passages from Lamentations and different things, but tonight we'll just focus on the Passion narrative. All right, Abby, and do you guys mind? In the meantime, I'll see if you can pass your test. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Do you mind dimming the house lights? If you want to move so that you can see up here, that's fine. If you want to hang back, you can. If you're very brave, we've got 3 seats in the front row. This is the story of Jesus' final days, as recorded in the book that we love, in the Gospel of Matthew, beginning with chapter 26. When Jesus had finished all of these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man is to be handed over for crucifixion. At that time, the chief priests and the elders of the people were gathered together in the courtyard of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they plotted together to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But they were saying, 'Not during the festival, otherwise a riot might break out among the people.' Now, when Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster vial of very expensive perfume, and she poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. And the disciples were indignant when they saw this, and they said, 'Why this waste? This perfume could have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor.' But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a good deed for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests, and he said, "What are you willing to give me to betray him to you?" And they gave him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment on, he looked for a good opportunity to betray Jesus. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Now, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And he said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I am keeping the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" The disciples did as Jesus told them, and they prepared the Passover. Now, when that evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me." Being deeply grieved, they began saying to him, saying, "Surely it's not I, Lord." And he answered, "He who dipped his hand with me in the bowl is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man is going away, just as it is written about him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." And Judas, who was betraying him, said, "Surely it is not I, Rabbi." And Jesus said to him, "You have said it yourself." Now, while they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it. And he gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is being poured out for many, the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it with you, brand new, in my Father's kingdom." And after singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." But Peter replied to him, "Even if they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away." Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, this very night before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter said to him, "Even if I have to die for you, I will never deny you." All the disciples said the same thing as well. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Someone has to at least come up. It's up to you. It's up to you. Then Jesus came to them to a place called Gethsemane. And he told his disciples, "Sit while I go over there and pray." And he took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee with him, and he began to be grieved and greatly distressed. And he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." And then he went a little beyond them, and he fell on his face and prayed, saying, My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "You could not keep watch with me for 1 hour? Keep watching and praying, so that you do not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and he prayed, saying, "My Father, if this cup cannot pass away unless I drink from it, your will be done." And again he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them again and went away and prayed a third time, saying the same thing once more. And he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Behold, the one who is betraying me is here." And while he was speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, came accompanied by a large crowd with swords and clubs, who came from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now he who was betraying them gave them a sign, saying, "Whomever I kiss, he is the one, arrest him." And immediately Judas went up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. But Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you have come to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus reached and drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them, "Put your sword back in its place, for all those who take up the sword will die by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? How then would the scriptures be fulfilled, unless it happens this way?" At that time Jesus said to the crowds, "Why have you come here with swords and clubs to arrest me as you would against a man who incites a revolt? Every day I used to sit in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this is taking place so that the scriptures of the prophets will be fulfilled." When they heard this, the disciples left him and fled. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Those who had arrested Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. And Peter followed him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And he came inside and sat down with the officers to see the outcome. Now the chief priests and the entire council kept trying to obtain false testimony against Jesus so that they might put him to death. But they couldn't find any, even though many false witnesses came forward. But later on, 2 came forward, and one said, "This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." The high priest stood up and said to him, "Do you offer no answer for what these men are saying against you?" But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest said to him, "I place you under oath by the living God to tell us whether you are the Christ, the Son of God." And Jesus said to him, "You are saying it yourself. But I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has blasphemed. What further need do we have of witnesses? See, you have now heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" And they answered, "He deserves death." They spit in his face. They beat him with their fists. Others slapped him. And they said, "Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who is the person who is hitting you?" Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a slave woman came to him and said, "You were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it all before them, saying, "I don't know what you are talking about." When he had gone out to the gateway, another woman saw him and said to those who were there, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know this man." A little later, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "You are one of them. Even the way you talk gives you away." And then he began to curse and to swear, "I do not know this man." And immediately a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the statement that Jesus had made, "Before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and he wept bitterly. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor questioned him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not offer any answer. And Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they are saying against you?" And still he did not answer him in regard to even one charge. So the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the Passover feast, the governor was accustomed to release to the people any one prisoner that they wanted. And at that time, they were holding a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the people gathered together, Pilate said to him, "Who do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that it was because of their envy that they had handed him over. And while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him a message saying, "See that you have nothing to do with that righteous man, for last night I suffered greatly in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to put Jesus to death. And the governor said to them, "Which of the 2 do you want me to release to you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus who is called Christ?" And they all said, "Crucify him." But he said, "Why? What wrong has he done?" And they just kept shouting all the more, saying, "Crucify him." And when Pilate saw that he was accomplishing nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water, he washed his hands in front of the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. You yourselves shall see." And all the people replied, "His blood will be on us and our children." Then he released Barabbas for them, but after having Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. And the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole Roman cohort to him. And they stripped him and put a red cloak on him. And after twisting together a crown of thorns, they placed it on his head, and they put a reed in his right hand. And they knelt down before him, and they mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." And they spit on him. They took his rod. They beat him on the head. And after they had mocked him, they took the cloak off him and put his own clothes back on him and led him away to crucify him. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. As they were coming out, they found a man of Cyrene named Simon, whom they compelled to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they gave him wine mixed with bile to drink. And after tasting it, he was unwilling to drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among themselves by casting lots. And sitting down, they began to keep watch over him there. Above his head, they put up the charge against him, and it read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." At that time, 2 rebels were being crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those passing by were speaking abusively to him, shaking their heads, and saying, "You said you could destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him and saying, "He saved others, but he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him now come down from the cross, and then we will believe in him. He has trusted in God. Let God rescue him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the rebels who had been crucified with him were also insulting him in the same way. Now, from the 6th hour, darkness fell upon all the land until the 9th hour. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. And around the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," that is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of those who were standing there when they heard it said, "This man is calling for Elijah." And immediately one of them ran, and taking a sponge, he filled it with sour wine, and he put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. But others said, "Let us see if Elijah comes to save him." Jesus cried out again with a loud voice, and he gave up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split, and tombs were opened, and many bodies of saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. And as for the centurion and those who were keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the other things that were happening, they became extremely frightened. And they said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." And many women were there watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee while caring for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. And when it was evening, a rich man from Arimathea came, named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body. And Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body, and he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and he laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut out of a rock. And he rolled a large stone against the entrance of the tomb, and he went away. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary, sitting opposite the tomb. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Go in peace.